Welcome to From Beyond with your host, Glenn Boddice. Join me as we explore spirituality, self-help, and channeling spirit. Hello and welcome to From Beyond with your host, Glenn Boddice, spiritual medium. Thank you for joining in to this week's episode. I'm extremely excited about this week's episode because not only am I joined by my co-host, Kristina Bloom, but we're also joined by our guest, Bobbi Klebenow, from the Breakfast with Bobbi podcast. And it's going to be an interesting deep dive conversation because we're going to be looking into the topic this week of witchcraft. But before we do that, let's introduce my co-host, Kristina Bloom. Kristina Bloom, how the devil are you?
Glenn Boddice, I'm really good. I'm really, really good. Yeah. I was thinking that usually you're a guest on Breakfast with Bobbi. So now it's like we all played musical chairs and Bobbi landed in the guest chair. So,
did indeed.
So now she's our guest rather than you being mine and Bobbi's guest. So this is kind of fun.
I'm looking forward to it. So
yeah, I've never interviewed Bobbi before, so this will be fun.
Well, let's introduce her. Bobbi
Klebenow.
Welcome to From Beyond with Glenn Boddice and Kristina Bloom. How are you? How are you keeping?
I'm fabulous. It's spring here in Wisconsin and the weather is gorgeous. Although yesterday was 80, today it's 43. Keeps you moving. And other than that, I'm doing really well. I'm so honored to be here and I really look forward to the discussion we're going to have today because there's so much to know and so much to think about. And witchcraft has been around for thousands of years and people don't even know it.
Yes, definitely. Well, before we do that, can you share with our audience your background? Because you were saying ahead of this recording about aspects of your background, and I'd like to hear it from your perspective, if you could, please.
Well, I've been in the medical field all my life, tried to get out, and that didn't work. I missed it so much I had to go back. Grew up, so to speak, with physicians and surgeons and scientists and researchers who thought very clear cut that if it's not science, it doesn't exist. And so that was an interesting perspective for me. And I remember I worked for the chief of rheumatology at one point, and we were being interviewed by a Native American who wanted him to support her in her mission. And he reclaimed to her that he could not do that based on the science of what the medical college supported. And given all of the science behind what he knew, he was not able to support her in the spiritual growth type of thing. And so after all of that, I said, so off the record, do you believe in that? And he said, off the record, I do. But I can't tell anyone else that because it's not science-based. So that being said, I started to dabble right around in that time and started doing hands-on therapy. Kristina was my master teacher at one point, and that's how I became attuned to Reiki 1, 2, and 3. And I remember some of the attunements, and I remember hearing a very distinct sound in my ear. And I thought, oh my God, that's what it means to be open and hear things. So on and on went my discovery. And the more that you do in energy medicine, the more you realize that, of course, everything is medicine. Everything is energy. And as far as medicine, it depends on how you use it. And your intentions are everything. And what you think about, you bring about, so to speak, in all different aspects. So after the Reiki stuff, I ran into another modality, so to speak. It was called matrix energetics, and it's from a guy he discovered it in Seattle, Washington. And so that was based on the 2-point connection and notice what you notice. And by the time we were done with the class, we were clairvoyant. We didn't know how we really got there, but we were there. and just noticing what we noticed. And at the end of that, and I studied that for, a few years, I was able to see patterns of energy. And for the novice, some people get caught up in their head about needing to know what that is. Well, we don't need to know what it is. We just need to know that it's there. We noticed what we noticed, and then to be able to move the energy out of the way so that something else can be restored. So that is still something that is with me today. I practice that a lot. And now I'm into shaman practitioner school. So,
Wow.
and I'm really, basically, I started doing that because I needed to know more. I felt there were some things going on in my life that I needed to know more about and how to navigate that. But in addition to that, the shamanic practice is so much about healing yourself first. And that's where I am in my lifetime right now. I'm healing myself with all the traumas that I've gone through and my lifetime of traumatic experiences from my childhood. And I was introduced to my inner child and have become very familiar with her. And I visit her every day, and she talks out, and she's got kind of an attitude. I don't know if you'd ever realize that, but
Never. You, Bobbi?
No
Never.
way.
Oh, get out of here.
just ask me, I'll tell you. So prior to that, now somewhere in there, as a young adult growing up, I was into sports a lot. So playing baseball, volleyball, swimming, horseback riding, all that kind of stuff. There was a point in time when I was working downtown Milwaukee, and it was a dangerous place to be. And I had had an accident, and I was in very strong braces. I looked like a bionic woman. And so I thought at that point in time, there was a lot of crime downtown. And I was thinking that I probably needed to know some self-defense. So, on and on, I bought a package of something from a local martial arts studio. And 5 years later, I received a black belt in martial arts, in mixed martial arts.
Whoa. That is surprising. Wow.
Yeah.
It
She's
was
pretty
so much fun.
amazing. She's pretty amazing. Like, you come on our show, you're the focus, so you don't hear all this stuff. But yeah, Bobbi's amazing.
That
Well, thank you
is.
so much. I just, you know what, for me, life is about having fun. If you're not having fun, don't do it. If you have a
Yeah.
choice, don't do it. If you hate your work, go find a different job. Do something you love. I was stuck in a job for 7 years that I absolutely hated, and I didn't fit in. It was, again, not in the medical field. I should have known. So my life and my personality style is really about helping people and doing what I can to support others in their growth.
Wow, Bobbi, what a journey. I love the fact that you've got this balanced viewpoint, the scientific, the spiritual, the traditional there as well. And I love what you was talking about there with all of a sudden you became clairvoyant, and that was just because you was observing and just allowing and not placing a tag on anything. You was just being here now.
Yeah.
I thought that was must have been an incredible workshop to go on that.
There was so much. There was one of the classes that was actually called wizardry. So
Yeah.
I went to wizard school.
Awesome.
Wow.
That's,
Wasn't
again, about
Hogwarts, was
intention.
it?
Right. We weren't given a wand, but we had our fingers, we had our hands, we could do, stuff
Could have
like
used
that.
my wand. I have one, just loaned
Aw.
it to you.
You didn't tell me that, Kristina.
I didn't know you needed one.
Well,
Oh,
apparently
one
I
for
don't.
hire. I can just see that in the local. One for hire.
I hope you don't charge too much, but because I don't know if I could afford the rental expense on your wand.
I'll give you the friends and family discount.
Oh, there you go. I like
There
that.
you go. Yeah.
So Bobbi,
So-
my
Yeah.
question
Can I
really,
just interrupt real quick and just throw one more amazing thing in about Bobbi?
you
Bobbi
can.
actually made my wedding cake, and it was beautiful and it was delicious. So she's a baker too. Yeah.
Oh, and
I am
what
a
sort of
baker.
flavor was that?
It was vanilla with what strawberry filling. It was
I
like
think it
layers.
was it strawberry filling, or was it raspberry?
It might have been raspberry. I don't remember, but it was red. It was
It's
really
a
good.
whipped frosting with some fruit
And do you do
involved in
all
there.
the cake decorating with the icing and all
Yeah.
of that? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always opted to put fresh flowers on the top because it's easier to put together. They look pretty, they're original, and some of the flowers last for a very long time. And it prevents, kids from taking their finger and swabbing it through the roses all over the cake. So
you spoil sport, you.
I'm sorry, I just had to throw that in there because that is just one more aspect of Bobbi some people might not know. Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, we're amongst royalty here.
Yes, we are.
Please be upstanding for Bobbi.
Yes.
Definitely. There was a question that intrigues me, and it obviously concerns the both of you, because you do the show Breakfast with Bobbi, the podcast there. And I've always been intrigued, how did that come together? So hearing your background there, Bobbi, knowing a bit about Kristina's, how did that come together? How did you have that conversation and get it moving?
Some coercion on my part. I'm just going to say, yeah, I had to.
It
took me a year to talk her into it.
A lot.
Like that. Come on, you go on the show.
Right.
Kind of.
Clearly, I had a weak moment somewhere in there and said yes, and here we are. How many episodes, Kristina? 41, 42?
Something like that. Yeah, 40, I think. I think we just did our 40th episode.
Yeah. Clearly, I had a very weak moment, and I said yes. But it took. We used to go to breakfast, and we had these amazing conversations, and there were a few times that we would all of a sudden look around in a full restaurant, and it would be quiet. And here they were all trying to listen to what we had to say.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what gave me the idea, actually.
Yeah.
Because I was still with WLTK-DB when it first came to me. So I was like, well, I'm doing it. You can do it. It's not that hard.
Wow.
Right.
Oh,
and here we are.
And you interview guests from all over the world, don't you, as well, in all manner of walks of life?
We do. You being one of them. And we had such a blast with you. Your episodes are beautiful and intriguing and interesting. So we look for that. And basically, we look for people that have a like mind, and that, we don't want to do anything with religion or politics or any of that. So we steer away from that. But the majority of the time, when we interview people, it is obviously we're pretty intuitive and we know what's going on, and we just sort of make it flow as good as we can. And there is generally not ever any dull moment. We just sort of let the conversation move, and it's casual conversation with some very interesting people, you included.
We've had you on, I think, 3 times now, I think.
Oh, you are brave. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
But your shows are some of the most popular because I do the uploads and all that. So I get to see all the statistics. And the shows with you on are some of our most watched shows. So.
And I will pay you your commission later after we finish this
episode.
I appreciate it. But can I just say, you both have made me feel very welcome every time I've been on. And it feels like I'm amongst soul friends, if you know what I mean. And the conversation, as you say, just flows. It's comfortable. It gets ridiculous. So for anybody that's listening to this episode, it's going to get messy in a minute when we dive deep.
The more ridiculous, the better. It makes it more interesting.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We do try to hold it together. And sometimes we're not successful, but for the majority of the time, we allow that. That's part of the grace and ease that we try to exude, which, sometimes I suffer with not being exuding.
I like that. It goes unedited, it just goes out as it is. And I think that's the way it should be, transparency there.
We have no
we're
script.
Transparent. Yeah. We're
Who said that?
transparent.
Right then, so we may as well, I'll crack the whip and we'll get started. All right. As I say, we're talking about witchcraft. Okay, so already got the hackles. My arms and
there you go.
Sticking up. Just the mere word of it, it can trigger some people, can't it? But we're going to explore as many facets as we can within this topic. So I'm just going to throw it out there. What's everybody's opinion of spirit boards or Ouija boards, as they're more commonly known?
Go ahead, Bobbi.
I think there's so much stigma behind the Ouija board. And some people say that it's self-directed. Some people say it's manipulated. Some other people have had some pretty incredible reactions from that board. I personally, yeah, I've used them back in the day when I didn't know any better. Now I don't do that. I don't have a need for it. I don't have a desire for it, and I think it's outdated. But those are things that, again, it's kind of quirky. It's one of the things that leaves you wondering, and sometimes it can get kind of spooky. That's my opinion.
Hmm.
Yeah, I know I have a little different opinion than a lot of people do. And that's that my opinion is that it's just another tool. It's just another way to get information. Excuse me. I don't know where my voice went there. It's been in and out for the last week. But
Ooh.
but with spirit boards, I think it's just like anything else. If you don't know how to set a safe space, if you
Yeah.
don't know how to communicate with the other side or whatever dimension that you happen to reach, I think that that's where the problem comes in. It's been sold in toy stores for decades with no direction on how to set a safe space. It's been sold as a toy, and it's not a toy, it's a tool. So if you don't know what you're doing, leave them alone. But I would say the same thing about tarot cards. I would say the same thing about any divination tool. If you don't know what you're doing, leave it alone. If you do know what you're doing, then respect it. Treat it with respect. Treat those who come through it with respect. And if it's not feeling right, then close the door. Don't just get up and run away, because then you're leaving a door open with a whole bunch of fear dumped on the table. And that's going to be a problem, right? That'll be a problem. But if you know how to set an energy space to only invite in, the highest level of love and light, to only invite in what's going to be helpful and help people and maybe do some healing for people's relationships or whatever, it's no different than mediumship. It's just another way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you have to be careful. Like every time that even when I go to an event like a fair, I set a space around my booth for those exact things, because there's a lot of weird energies that walk through those places. I don't want to get hit with all that energy. So I set a space around my booth so that, I only get like, I only let in the love and light and the healing and the helping people work through whatever. The Ouija board or the spirit board is just another way to communicate, in my opinion.
Well, to piggyback on your conversation there, Kristina, I
Yeah.
think what happens is there's a lot of hearsay
Mhm.
when people hear about that. And again, like you said, it's sold in the toy section sometimes, or
Mhm.
strange little, boutique-y kind of stores. But the problem is that people are not given good instruction, and they don't have
Exactly.
respect for anything. And so opening up a space and then allowing things to come in or not, they have no concept of what came in or that
Mhm.
anything really did, because they're not conscious about their feelings. But it's
Right,
all based
exactly.
on hearsay and
Mhm.
play, so to speak. And you get in
Right.
trouble with that.
But I've seen the same thing with paranormal investigations not using Ouija boards. So, it really is a matter of respecting the spirit world and respecting the humans that are in your presence as well.
Right.
For me personally, obviously I'm aware of them. I have worked with them in the past. It's not something that I would endorse, simply because of the amount of mess that is left behind. I mean, the amount of house clearings that I've had to do and soul rescues that I've had to do over 25 years or more, a lot of them have been caused by somebody dabbling in this spirit board or Ouija board, or even making their own out of paper or whatever.
Mhm.
And like you say, Kristina, they haven't had that knowledge base. There's no instructions. They've maybe seen it on a horror film or something like that and
Yeah.
emulated that. And usually 9 times out of 10, they've been either intoxicated with liquor or, some sort of substance there.
Yeah.
And it's been done at a party where everybody has been in high spirits anyway. And as we know with alcohol and those sort of substances, they bring a lower vibration to them. So before you've even started the procedure, shall we say,
Right.
you're already at that lower based vibrational level. So you're going to attract more of that into the experience. And of course, with a lot of people not knowing the procedures, they get bored of it if it's not moving after a while, and then they just leave it alone. They don't close it down. They don't ask with intention. They don't bring in, the angels or anything like that. And so that portal is then constantly open, and the occupants of those premises experience a lot of untold mystical things happening, like things going missing, people in the household getting depressed, getting severely unmotivated to do things as well. And, it can have a knock-on effect. So although they do work very efficiently, but if you're not setting any intentions and you have no knowledge of them, then you're going to get some very bizarre results there. And obviously, those portals that are opened, unless somebody comes in that knows what they're doing to close them down, they will remain open for eons in time. So it's I would say be cautious. Be cautious with that.
Oh, absolutely be cautious. And if you don't know how to open and close a space, don't do any of this. Not just Ouija boards. Don't do any of it if you don't know how to open and close a space.
Right.
So, yeah.
Speaking of portals, I know that people have the ability to open them up by themselves. And I think some people do that and don't know that they're doing it. So can we talk about that for a minute? How do they do that?
By inviting in communication without understanding that they need to set some boundaries first.
I know there's houses out there that have tons and tons of portals all over the place, and people open them up and have no idea they did. And even more so, how to shut them down.
I would agree with Kristina. Yeah, definitely intention and asking. And I say this because I've got 3 in my home. One downstairs is an ascension column, and also it's what the spirits use to come in and do trance mediumship through me. They come through that column. Another one at the top of the stairs. This is where any spirit visitors that my shall we call it household friend, spirit friend, little gentleman called Tom, it's about 7 or 8 years old. He says that he's a runner, and he runs from the spirit world into this dimension, and he helps some of those spirit visitors to come in. And some of these visitors need soul rescue work. So he brings them in, lets me know about them being there, and then we do that soul rescue work. And the third one is in my bedroom, and I do some of my classes and teaching in there, the odd time. And also, I would say it's part ascension column as well, because whilst I'm sleeping, I'm getting visitors and surgeons and other people in the spirit realm working with me and on me with DNA and all sorts of things. I've asked my guides numerous times, are these okay to be here? And they've said, yes, you're very safe. They're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. And I haven't experienced anything bad about them. But, if I was, then they would be closed down. And another thing about this with the ascension columns and the portals is, for example, if you move home, you can then take them with you with intention by asking, and you can move them on with you so they don't have to stay in that property when you're not there.
I had no idea. That's great information.
Yeah. But with you saying people open them without realizing, I would say that is their curious mind, potentially their vibration changing, and it reaches a crescendo where it kind of flicks the switch open without them realizing. And people talk about, is it puberty with young girls as well, that's what they do. They open up various portals, and all sorts of phenomena can happen around that time in puberty because their vibration, their energy, their DNA is changing around that time.
Can I just, we have some bullet points here, but I want to skip over the next one, maybe go back to it. But this kind of leads into spelling and spell casting, right? Because what we speak, we create. And I think that's how people do it unintentionally. I think that's how people open portals unintentionally. They're just having conversations, or they're angry or whatever, and whatever comes out of their mouth creates maybe a portal.
Right.
Oh, I
So,
like that.
Somebody says, go to hell. Okay. Oh, did you just open a portal?
Clean, clear, cancel, delete.
Clean, clear, cancel, delete. Exactly. But you know what I mean? It's like,
I do.
we're not often conscious of what we're saying. And I think
Right.
somehow that's how portals get opened sometimes, is how we accidentally cast spells by what we say, particularly with charged emotion, like anger.
Right. That's a very powerful one. Now, what about having a portal open on your body? Anybody experience that?
It's a new
Well,
one.
I think that's a really good question for Glenn at this juncture in his life.
Oh, of course. Yes, thank you. Yes, because those of you that are listening that may not know, I've recently had surgery, and I came out of that. It's interesting you should say that, Bobbi, because my guide said that what I've gone through, I had to have this surgery, and they said I'd come to the end of the road with a certain vibration that I was holding, and this had to happen because otherwise I would have continued treading water on that old vibration and not getting to the next level on my timeline. So this, shall we say, why I had to have this surgery was to stop me in my tracks, enforce brake to slow me down, so that they can then work with me on an energetic level to remove some of those old belief systems that have been keeping me small, keeping me stuck in that same lane, in order to create that space for the new chapter to open up. So with you referring to that as a portal, I can see exactly where you're going with that. Yeah, because it was an instigator of change, what I experienced. And it had to happen on the physical body. Just to let everybody know, it was an abscess on my stomach area, and it had to be operated on and removed. But in doing that, that slowed me down. It enabled the healing to continue with the physical body. But I think more than anything else, it was all about the mental and emotional body that was having the more work put on it rather than the physical. So
I would agree with that.
Very interesting.
Since
That's
I was sending you
fascinating.
Reiki every day for a week, I think, yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah.
Me too. Yep. So
Great.
that poses a question for me. I have recently moved out of my house because there was all kinds of things happening. Was that something to do with a portal? Was that my transmission, my transmutation to this new life to expand and grow in my own energy field? Because I started shamanic practitioner school after I left there, because the situation that I was in was not supportive, and that would not have allowed me to grow. So all kinds of things were happening to push me out of the house to get me to expand myself. That's very interesting, Glenn.
I can vouch for that. There were a lot of things happening, pushing her out of the house. Yeah. I mean, I went into that house and I was dealing with portals, and we'd shut them down and they'd open up again. But I think that might go back to the spell casting, some of the words that were said in that home, and some of the exchanges that happened there verbally and energetically.
Wow.
That would have attracted those lower vibrations in, wouldn't it? Particularly if you're talking of, if you're frustrated, if people are in the household are frustrated, that's going to come out into frequency, into energy. That's going to attract some beings, entities, if you will, to maybe force their way into that dimension, into your previous home there. So potentially, I would say so.
Yeah.
A vehicle of change for you. Yeah.
You know, if the universe is talking to you and telling you to do something and you're not hearing it, and even more so you're not listening and you're not tuned in, they turn the volume up so high that you have to listen. And I had
Right.
to listen to that. Otherwise, I don't know. I called Kristina over twice and she said, I've done everything that I can. You're on your own. This is it. And
I did not say you're on your own.
You're on your own,
no, she
kid.
didn't. She
No, I
didn't. But
didn't. I did not say that. But I did do everything
Here's
that I
me wand.
could. Yep, here's my wand.
$10,
It's
please.
it's made of selenite. Here you go.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's I did do everything that I could do, and at the end of that second session, I was talking to my guides, and I'm like, okay, what is happening here? And they're like, you're not supposed to remove it. There's a message here.
Oh,
Well, you finally got the message.
wow.
Yeah. It
Yeah,
was either me or them, and I chose me. So
yeah,
Well, I'm glad you did because you're beaming. You've got a vibe
yes,
about you. It's beaming.
yeah.
Yeah,
She is
definitely.
beaming, isn't she?
Yeah, blossoming.
Yeah.
Definitely.
yeah, so part of my training, I told you about matrix energetics
Yeah.
Hmm.
and the 2-point connection. So what we were trained in is you drop down into your heart, you place intent, and you let go. And so that in and of itself, placing the intent and not thinking about it anytime later, it just shows up for you. So the question is, how much restriction are you going to put on the description of what you want? Because if you open with the flow and you say, I want ABC, but then you go back and say, well, I want a blue ABC, and there's no blue out there, the universe will twirl around until they find it. So if you put less parameters around it and be grateful for what you have, it will show up quicker.
I
Note to
like that.
self.
Yes.
Note
Yeah.
to self, and note to talk to Glenn when we're done filming or when we're done recording here about that exact same thing. But we'll talk
Yeah.
later.
It's
That's
very cool. And
interesting.
everybody, you know how to do it.
Yeah,
It's very simple.
yeah,
Um,
Yeah.
just ask the question, an
yeah,
open-ended question, and drop into your heart. When you are in your heart, all kinds of magic happens. And because
absolutely.
there's a torsion field this way and there's a torsion field this way, and at the end of that, in the middle of it, that's where no thing is. That's where nothing is. And that's where all the possibilities lie.
I like that.
Keep that
I
in
do.
mind.
Yeah,
Because
I
there's a
like
lot
that.
of us, myself included,
Yeah.
various points in my life where we want this, like you say, we want it this color, we want this sort of person, we want this. There's all these
Right,
specifics. We're
right.
making it
Mhm.
incredibly hard for the universe and ourselves to match up because of all those specifics. When,
Mhm.
like you say, when we remove all of that and
Hmm.
just focus into gratitude in our heart day, it comes in a lot quicker. That's beautifully put.
Absolutely.
While we're still talking about spelling, I think we need to address this as well.
Okay.
Now, the origin of spelling, obviously, words together create spelling a word. Words are a vibration, a frequency. So, as you said, Kristina, when we're speaking, we're spell casting. The combination of those letters, creating those words, those ingredients bound together will create a, a frequency that we're casting out into the ether. And this is where the universe matches up to that. The universe doesn't matter whether it's a good intention or a bad intention. It just recognizes, oh, it's that frequency. Here's this frequency. It's
Mhm.
our perspective that sees whether it is good or bad.
Well, good and bad is for the most part a judgment call, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all
So
perspective.
it's
You
perspective.
think
Yeah.
good, I might think is bad.
Right. Exactly. And what's good for you might be bad for me.
Yeah.
So there's that
Yeah.
duality thing that comes into it too.
Hmm.
But I think intention and paying attention to intention and attention together is
Yeah.
how we can create better spells with our words.
Hmm.
And they don't have to rhyme. I know I know a lot of people who like they do these little incantations and whatever, and they make these little rhyming spells, and the thing is, like, we started out with the topic of witchcraft, which is really about energy, which is what we've been talking about. But I follow a couple of different groups on social media, and they always have like these little rhyming chant things that they do, to cast a spell. And the thing about witchcraft is it doesn't have to be that way, because it's an energy practice. And most people, I'm not going to say most, a lot of the people I know they don't even have covens. Like they're just, what do they call it, solo practice. There was a word for that just slipped out of my head, but yeah, but most people they're just practicing solo. They're just doing their own thing with, whatever. I'm not a big ritual person, so I don't have all the different color candles, and I don't have all of the herbs and all of that, just because it's like that doesn't resonate with me. I've never really been a ritual person, or even a ceremonial person. It's not something that really even resonates with me as far as ceremony, unless it's excuse me, like a ceremony with a group of people. Like I've gone to Native American ceremonies and that sort of thing, where it's a group activity. But I think a lot of people are solo practitioners of witchcraft, right? And all of it is about energy. It's about the words that they're used, but they don't have to rhyme. It's just about intention.
The thing is, to add to that, is a lot of us have been practicing witchcraft without even realizing it.
Yes.
And this is with birthday celebrations. We put candles on a birthday cake, and we make a wish, and we put those intentions, and we have a candle there, light. We extinguish the light there, and we're blowing that candle out there, setting that intention, that wish out there into the ether. So a lot of us have been doing that without even realizing.
Yeah, that's one example for sure. Yeah.
So I'm going to put a little caveat to all of this and really stir the pot.
Awesome.
Go on then.
So, we've been doing this for quite a while. We all have our own intentions. We all say our own stuff. And now we've just gotten really specific in our head about the spell that we have to do it with an X colored candle and all of these little details. Again, the specifics of what I just talked about, dropping down into your heart, placing the intent, letting go. You don't get in your head. It takes the universe longer for it to come up with your goal. But more than that, this has been around forever. But what has happened over time, think about, now I'm going to get a little black and white for the people that are not necessarily into witchcraft. What about prayer? You sit down and you do this, and then you pray and you ask for whatever it is that you want. That's a spell type of thing.
It's all the same.
It's all the same. Correct. Yeah. Energy is energy. It doesn't matter what modality. If you have a blue candle or a red candle or a white candle, you're still asking for something. And it really depends on what you're calling in and who you're calling in to help you with it.
Yeah.
Amen, sister. I like that.
Yeah.
Love that.
You got to the stirring the pot before I did. Congratulations.
Oh, you wipe your spoon.
We stir it with a broom handle, just so
yes, we do. Yeah.
And it depends on which direction you go. Yeah. Which way is the portal going?
Yeah.
And I'm a good little Catholic girl. I went to Catholic school for 8 years, so I went to church every day. And during Easter, we went to church twice because of the Stations of the Cross and all this other kind of stuff. And you can get so far in your head about who said what and where it's written. And, back in the day when the Bible was written, it was written by a bunch of guys who heard one thing and then passed it on, but then somebody else picked it up and decided they didn't want that sentence in there. And now we are fast forwarding to today after many changes, and you have some skewed version of what was actually written with 500 different religions of someone else's perception.
Right.
What's real is the question.
And
what's
also
real.
the writing it didn't start until hundreds of years after Christ died. So
Yeah.
What I find fascinating about these religious books, such as the Bible, is the energy within them. You know, you don't even have to read them. You can hold it. And it's used as a symbolism of truth, isn't it? The Bible, supposedly. But you can
Yes.
feel the vibrations of the Bible just by holding it. And in fact, you can extract readings or guidance from the Bible. I believe they call it bibliography. Is that where you flip along the spine of the Bible, and then where your finger lands, you open up the page and you go to the paragraph where you're drawn to, for what specific reason or healing or information that you need at that time. Maybe when you read that sentence out, it's all in Old English. It doesn't mean anything to you. But once you've read it out aloud, the vibrations that has created around you may potentially be the healing, the codes, the ascension codes that you needed to have in your existence at that moment in time. So it's a very healing tool, I feel.
Right.
I feel you could probably do that with almost any book.
Yes. Oh, of course you can. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But more so you can feel that instantly on a religious book, can't you? The energy.
Right.
So on that note, now here in Wisconsin, we have something, and I live up in that area. My house is up there. It's called Holy Hill. And lately I have been going there primarily because they have this wonderful little cafe with great coffee and homemade pies. But in addition to that, it's just the church is a basilica. And then off to the side, there is a small chapel. And outside of that is a bunch of crutches. So people go in there to get healed. And all of that, again, intention, how it's written, it's a healing place. The Bible could be a healing thing depending on how you interpret it. Your words are healing, your actions are healing, and more specifically, the whole world is intentional. And it depends on how you perceive it and how you move forth with it and what you tell yourself. We are only limited as far as our own thoughts of holding ourselves back or prospering.
Right. And I have to say, one of my favorite things in Holy Hill is climbing the tower. You can walk up the steps inside one of the basilica towers, and that last tier is a little rickety and scary, but I mean, it's like you can get up to these open windows. Like there's windows, but there's no glass in them. It's just open.
Right.
Yeah.
And the view from there is amazing. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like, for me, that's so much more spiritual to connect to nature on that level than to go sit in the chapel.
So, yeah, I'm all about nature. When something is amiss in my system, I go to nature. I love walking outside, and in the morning when the sun is coming up, listening to the birds.
Yeah.
They give so many messages.
That's one of my favorite things about things like witchcraft, is that they're nature-based.
Yep.
Definitely.
I've apparently been a white witch for a very long time and didn't know it. Because that's what I do, things that I love, and it's all based in, I'm a gardener.
In nature, right.
Yeah. So if any of you want tomato plants, I got a million of them.
Oh, lovely. Can't beat tomatoes.
I'll bring one on the plane with me. There might be some issues at going into
I don't know about
costumes,
that. As long as it's not pot, it should be okay. I hope.
Out of curiosity, that location, is it Holy Hill, did you say?
Yes.
Would you say that that's built on some sort of ley line for you to experience those qualities when you're there?
Oh, I never thought about that.
Like an energy grid line, and that's why it's been positioned on that hill.
Huh. Let's consult the oracle here.
It's the steeples, what Kristina was calling as towers, are what you would call as steeples. There's two of them, but it goes up in a spiral all the way to the top, and you can see miles around all over the city and beyond. That's
interesting with the spiral staircase, because as you know, when we go up those, when we reach the top there, everybody feels a little bit lightheaded.
Yes.
So was that the intention of having the spiral staircases, to get you out of your mind so that you're more godly like when you reach the top and you have that clearer connection, so-called, with the universe?
Sure. Well,
So
that's fascinating.
yeah, I just looked it up. It said, while there's no definitive proof that Holy Hill is built on the ley line, the area does have a history of being considered a sacred site and has a unique geological feature that might support this idea. According to a local historical society, Holy Hill, also known as Hermit Hill, is the highest point in the Kettle Moraine. This moraine is a geological formation created by glaciers, is itself a unique and potentially energy-rich area. Furthermore, the area has a history of being seen as a sacred place, with pilgrims coming to it to for prayer and healing. So there
They
you
even
go.
have a Spanish mass, and the
Yeah.
Hispanic community spends a lot of time there as well.
Mhm.
But it's very accessible, and they cater to people in turn. They even provide wheelchairs. And as you, there's a hornet flying around in my house. I'm sorry.
There's a message in that.
I would be running out of the house.
As long as it,
As long as it
it's
stays
not a
up there,
spider,
right?
I'm okay.
Huge. They're like the size of a thumb, aren't they, flying around?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Hornets.
they can be. Yeah. So
Yeah.
anyway, wow.
Anyway,
We kind of like
so
totally derailed off topic, but that's okay.
the spiral.
Yeah, the spiral.
Do you guys know what the Fibonacci lines are?
Oh, I've heard
That's
of it.
the
Yeah.
spiral.
Mhm.
And interestingly enough, I know we talked about stock trading. We use Fibonacci lines for retracements,
Oh,
the spiral of all of that. And there's something to be said, look at a seashell, all the spiral lines in there, that's a Fibonacci. And they're all exactly proportionate measurements that are scientifically aligned.
Wow.
interesting.
That's religious. Okay, it's spellbound. That's one of those things that you can,
Yeah.
it's very cool.
I like this. And I'm still fascinated to this very day that when you pick up a shell on the beach, you can hear the sea in it.
Yeah.
That still baffles me.
Me too. It's one of those
Yeah.
mysteries I don't want an answer to because it's kind of a childhood innocence mystery.
Yeah.
I like that. I like
I
that.
agree.
It's up there with that old saying, never eat yellow snow.
Yeah.
I've heard that before. I think you're onto something there, Glenn.
Yeah.
Being in
Another one is
Wisconsin,
never turn your back on a fire. All of them.
we used to say something similar in martial arts, but it wasn't that.
Oh, okay.
We're going to behave ourselves for a moment now.
Yes. All right.
So, shall we move on? Well, we're skipping a few topics, but I'm aware of time. Can we talk about haunted items or supposed haunted items, sacred items? Could be anything, really, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Can I tell you a story?
You can.
Yes, please.
I really enjoy going to fairs, rummage sales, things like that. And I went to a church rummage sale because my kids put it on in the Catholic school they were going to. And I found a brooch that was beautiful. It was gold and it had black scrolling on it, and it was old. It was very old. It had initials on the back of it, and it had a pin, and it fit into a head, so it was one of those really old things, not like today. And I was wearing it one day, and I was on my way somewhere, and all of a sudden I got this whiff of something, and I thought, what? And I'm smelling myself going, what happened here?
Not guilty.
My deodorant stopped working. Oh my God. I was with a friend from work, and again, we were studying meditation and we were just kind of coming up in the psychic realities of life. And I was complaining about it, and I said, am I all right? Kind of thing. And she said, that's not you, Bobbi. That's that brooch. She said, that brooch was owned by a little old lady, and that's what you're smelling. They follow you.
They do.
Wow. Yeah.
Likewise, I still use my grandfather's dresser. Now, my grandfather
Yes.
has been gone for almost 30 years, like 28, 29 years. And I'm not sure where he got it, to be honest with you. But I still have my grandfather's dresser. And every once in a while, when I open a drawer, I still smell him.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I have questions. I know a little bit about it, but remember my bedroom that
Mm-hmm.
you came over, and the dresser was attracted my stepmother, who was kind of evil. So how do they get attached to that? And the spirit world, is it that you're thinking about them? They just want you to know that they're present, kind of thing? I have many questions.
I
There's
want
so
to
much I
hear
don't know.
Glenn's answer to that because I'm kind of in the I don't know camp.
There's several explanations. One is the intention of that being, that person before they left their body or when they did leave their body, they may have had a particular fondness to that item. And although you can't take these things with you in their energy, in their conscious field, it was their pride and joy, their possession. So by even thinking that, they're attaching themselves vibrationally, energetically, whether consciously or subconsciously, to that item there. And so when they make their transition, they're in the world of spirit. This maybe is one of the strands that's keeping them with a foothold in this dimension so that they're unable to continue their spiritual journey until they realize that you can't take it with you. They've got to release that attachment. Only they can make that decision. Nobody can do it for them. And so that potentially is why that spirit is still hanging around, because they can't move on until they've consciously made that choice to accept, okay, I can't take it with me, but I can have the fondness and the joy of that experience of that item. And by having that, they can move on and make that transition. Another explanation I would say is, let me see, come on. I don't know if I've got another one. I did have two, but I think I've kind of explained it in that one. Um, Attachment, it could be like you were saying, Bobbi, when you call them in, when you think of somebody in the world of spirit, that's like a direct line, a telephone line. And as long as you're holding that link, that thought, that memory in your mind, it's going to draw them forward and closer to you. And if an item was to trigger that thought of that individual in your mind, if you understand what I'm saying,
Yeah.
then obviously, yeah, that item will have that specific purpose of triggering you to remember those thoughts, those emotions, to bring that person in. And as long as you're holding that link with them, again, they're still going to be in there until you release that link from yourself. And in fact, this is how Kristina will mention this as well, is how a lot of mediums get their links and hold their links and bring the information, because they're just constantly holding on to that thought, that vibration, that link with that individual until they've brought forward their message, and then they release that thought, and then that individual goes. So I would say on a couple of levels, that's the way I would describe it. Now I'm going to throw Kristina under the bus. Your turn.
Right. Oh my gosh. How far did we get into this before you threw me under the bus? That's amazing. You usually do that right off. So
I was being kind today.
yeah, we kind of targeted Bobbi today. So that's so haunted items. While you were talking, I was thinking about specifically famous haunted items like Robert the Doll or Annabelle or something like that. And what was coming to me while you were talking was that there are so many people who have put so much energy into that item being haunted that it really has no choice but to be haunted. I forget. I really need to keep better notes because I know that there was an experiment done. I'm not sure at which university, but they literally created a ghost by thinking about it, a group of students who did that. And it was an experiment to see, like, do we contact them? Do we create them? How does this work? And they literally created a conscious ghost by defining it, by focusing on it. And at one point, they were even able to take a picture of it.
Wow.
And I really need to, I need better notes so I can remember who did it and when. I think it was in the 1970s.
Did they create it, or did they come up with attributes and again, the universe found that spirit out there?
Their intention was to create it. That's all I can tell you. Their intention was to create it. Like they sat down as a group and decided, okay, if we're going to create a ghost, what is it going to look like? What's its history going to be? And they literally made up the whole thing.
Well, that can be right up there with the Salem witch trials then, right?
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, what a farce that was.
Let's move into that.
Yeah.
Because we're running out of time. So
Bobbi and I went to Salem together, actually. So,
wow.
yeah, well, it was part of my 50th birthday party thing. Like a group of ladies went, and Bobbi was with us. And talk about, I want to hear your take on the museum thing that we did. Do you remember that? The Salem Witch Museum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think they worked really hard at creating the story, but for me, and even though it was contrived, that whole story was contrived, they made it up, blah, blah, blah. But only to find out at the end of the day that there really is spirit and ways to go about this. So was it really contrived? Was it really made up?
Well, the thing was that, first of all, there weren't any witches.
Well, they didn't call them that.
That's correct. Second of all, nobody was burned at the stake.
Right.
Nobody was lit on fire.
Yep.
There was one man who was crushed with stones, and the rest of them were all hung. And none of them were witches. They were people who were targeted financially, politically, whatever. But it started with a group of little girls, 10 to 12-year-old girls, who made up a story about their nanny and called her a witch. And it just went crazy throughout the community. And it didn't even last that long, did it? It was less than a year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't incredibly long, but the whole thing was just so wild.
It was all made up. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And the way the imagination really propelled all of that and how it passed on, and it just became a poison and fed the entire city.
Yeah. Yeah. It was interesting. Yeah.
And does it feel a strange vibration in that area to visit?
In the museum, it was kind of strange, I thought.
Yeah, it was a weird setup too. It was a weird setup the way they did it. But I think I've been back to Salem a couple times since, just because other people wanted to go. So I went with them. But if you're in that center town area, it's all commercial. I mean, it's like Disneyland for witches. It's
It's a tourist trap.
It's a tourist trap. And to me, I don't.
Oh, golly gosh.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't really feel much there, except for, whatever people are creating in their own minds. But when you go out to different areas, like we went to the House of Seven Gables, I definitely felt energy there. Going around, like we actually did not even stay in Salem. We stayed in Gloucester, and definitely a lot of energy around there. It's a seaside fishing village. It's got a lot of stuff going on. What was that other little town? Rockport? That really cool little town that was closes down in the winter because it's a little island out in the North Atlantic Ocean. It would freeze solid. But anyway, so there was a lot of energy around the area, but it's also really close to Boston. So there's a lot of city energy too. And if you haven't been to that area, then you don't really understand that that's what it is. It kind of, everything out there is sort of bringing your consciousness back to the 1600s. But it really is, it's surrounded by city, and a tourist trap. And yeah.
A lot of readers, a lot of gem places, a lot of, you walk in and out of every store and there's tchotchkes everywhere that are related
Occult
to that.
shops.
And
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
T-shirt shops.
Fascinating.
thinking back on the vibration of what that whole area was like, it felt kind of quirky, eerie, sort of weird. But I think that's primarily because of all the people that are going there that carry that. And,
Yeah.
it's all sort of made up. So the energy that's stirring there is ambivalence, and they're not sure what they're seeing and they're not sure what they're feeling. And so there's all this chaotic kind of static energy hanging.
That's
Wasn't
a
a bad
really good
place.
description. Not bad. I mean, it's a fun place to go visit. I
Yeah.
would not certainly consider it a pilgrimage like a lot of self-described witches do. But
Oh, really?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
why? Yeah. The House of
Yeah.
Seven Gables, though, was wonderful. And in fact,
Mhm.
I bought a journal there that had a dragon on it. It's purple and gold and stuff. I still have that journal, and I'm using it now for my shamanic practitioner. All of my journeys are
That's
documented
awesome.
in there.
Wow.
That's awesome. Yeah.
I spent years trying to figure out what I was going to use the journal for, and I just kept passing it off. And all of a sudden, it just came to me. So,
Okay. I just want to say it hasn't been that many years.
hasn't it? How many years? 2000.
It's,
Giving the
it's been
game
7
away
years. Yeah.
Right. So I have one other question.
Mm-hmm.
Before I came on the show, I did a little bit of research on modern day witches.
Yeah.
And it was kind of crazy of some of the stuff that came up, which is just really stuff that happens to you every day, and why you don't, or most witches don't have welcome on their welcome mat at the door. They don't put the word welcome in there. And things that, if you are noticing trying to figure out who is a witch and who isn't, they have a candle in the window kind of thing. What's the candle thing all about? I didn't know that. So apparently I'm out of touch. I don't know what that means, that you have candles in the window. Does that represent something?
Oh, I don't know. Maybe the light, bringing in the light. A lot of them do spell castings and releasement ceremonies where they write some of the things they want to let go of on paper, and then they'll burn that with a candle. The candle's near the window, so with the window being open, it will release that ash, those flames out of the property, out of the building. Maybe that's the reason. I don't know. Just an idea there.
Yeah, I don't know either.
A lot of modern witchcraft practitioners, they still have altars as well. So they dedicate an area of their home, even if it's just a corner there with all of their spiritual tools, their crystals. A lot of them have a specific way of where they place those items in that altar area to keep that energy as pure as they can. And if anybody moves it, then they have a belief that will disrupt the flow of that energy with those instruments and those tools. They get very het up about that. Like things just so.
I just want to say behind the screen, I have an altar set up.
Oh, nice. I've got one just behind the screen there with all my cards.
I'm not telling you where mine is.
It's in the basement, isn't it? It's in the basement. We know.
Fire ceremony. Well, the other part of all of this is, I think sometimes people get really, again, in their head about the details of all of this. Altars can be anywhere. They can be for anything. The church has altars.
Yeah.
Apparently witchcraft has altars. By the way, I never classified myself as a witch. Shamanic practicing, the shamans practice fire ceremonies. So the candle type of thing. These little attributes can go across the whole lineage of different religions and different practices and whatnot. It just depends on what they use it for.
Right. I have singing bowls on my altar. So, for me,
just
that's
holding that space, isn't it?
Yeah.
Having that space, holding it for that specific purpose.
It's all intention.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is all intention. And really, that's what all of witchcraft comes down to, is intention. And I can see Glenn checking the clock here. So I think we're coming to the end.
We are, yeah. You could feel me prompting you.
I could feel it. I could feel it. Yeah.
We have come to the end of this discussion, and I was just looking at the show notes, and we didn't even scratch the surface of this. So at some stage, we'll have to come back to this topic as a threesome to do that as well.
Yeah.
The power of three, definitely. And I don't feel as though there's any coincidence that we happen to come together as the power of three for this episode on witchcraft.
Right, because that's a big number in witchcraft. Yeah. That is a big number in witchcraft, yeah.
But I'd like to thank you, Kristina, and I'd like to thank you, Bobbi, for coming in today and sharing your wisdom and your time with us all in this episode. Can I first of all ask you, Bobbi, is there anywhere where people can go and find out more about you, or how can they connect with you if you're wanting them to do that?
Well, I think the best place to find out is really going to the YouTube channel, Breakfast with Bobbi. I also have a Facebook page. We do a Facebook page with Breakfast with Bobbi, but my Facebook, I post certain things out there too. I do a lot of sales and marketing and stuff for other things, and that's really not what I'm about. They have questions or whatever. I would even hate to put myself out there as a shamanic practitioner at this point. And there are so many more gifted shamans out there that are more experienced than I am at this point. But they want to contact me, they can contact me on Facebook, Bobbi Klebenow, and I'd be happy to answer any of their questions.
That's beautiful.
Awesome.
Thank you, Bobbi.
Awesome.
The same
You're
goes
welcome.
to you, Kristina. How can people contact you and make reservations with you?
Well, my website, KristinaBloom.com. That's Kristina with a K, Bloom with 2 O's. It just makes it easier. Just .com. And all of my information is on there. All the classes I teach are listed. All of the classes I teach are by request. So if you wanted to take a class, you can go look at the list and just get a hold of me and say, I'd like to schedule this class. I can do individual or I can do group classes, however that works. I also, you can book an appointment with me through my website. I'm easily found on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky, Lemonade, whatever that is. I'm still trying to figure that out, but it's a new one. And so, yeah, you can contact me through all of that. Send me a message on Messenger, either through Instagram or Facebook or TikTok.
Excellent. Thank you, Kristina. And just to let the listeners know, if you're wanting to contact me or book in with any of my services, you can head over to my website, www.glennboddicespiritualmedium.com. You can book in with me directly there. There's also every episode of the From Beyond with Glenn Boddice on there for you to look through the archive. Again, free to listen to or download. The choice is yours. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us all today. I've really enjoyed this episode. It's just flown, and there's just not enough time in the day to extract enough juice into this episode. But thank you so much, and I look forward to connecting with you both very, very soon.
And thank you, Bobbi.
Thank you so much, Bobbi. You guys. It's been an honor being here, and thank you for all your friendship and knowledge and sharing. Have a great day.
You too.
Take care.
Thank you for listening to From Beyond. For more information about what products and services Glenn provides, go to glennboddicespiritualmedium.com.